Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really digging into a tough story, looking at our source material on two massive public figures, Maggie Bradford, the singer-songwriter, and Will Shepherd, the soccer superstar they called the Blonde Arrow.
Yeah, and their lives were just splashed all over the headlines, weren't they? Huge success, but built on just, well, immense private trauma. The sources are pretty detailed.
You really are. And what we're seeing is this collision of fame and deep personal pain.
Exactly. That's the core theme we're exploring today, isn't it? How does that kind of celebrity, that visibility, interact with trauma? Does it heal, or does it just make things worse? Because both Maggie and Will became news, constantly judged by the public.
Right. So that's our plan. We'll trace how they got there. We'll start with Maggie escaping that domestic terror, her rise through music. Then we'll look at Will's story, the abuse, the violence, his own path to fame, and finally how their worlds collided so catastrophically. So Maggie's story, it doesn't start with glamour. It starts with sheer terror, hiding under a porch with her little girl, Jenny.
Yeah, the source material paints a horrifying picture. Her first husband, Philip, high on cocaine, screaming for her. I mean, the quote is chilling. "Maggie, I command you to come out, you disobedient little bitch."
Just awful. And what happened next, the first shooting incident, was called the worst family tragedy in West Point history. That's the backdrop.
And straight out of that terror comes, well, her art. While she's recovering in the hospital at West Point, kind of forced into isolation, she starts writing.
Non-stop, apparently. A new song a day. And she just keeps sending them to this producer, Barry Kahn.
Right, who was initially pretty skeptical. The sources quote him demanding originality is what I'm looking for. He wasn't just going to hand her a career.
But she broke through. The big one was Barbra Streisand recording her song, Loss of Grace. That changes everything.
Absolutely. Streisand saw something raw in her. Her assessment was spot on. Your song is so true, and the truth inside you is staggering. It speaks to how Maggie was channeling that pain, right?
Yeah. It seems like the music was maybe a way to cope, to find some control after losing all of it, turning trauma into, well, success.
I think that's exactly it. The art gave her an outlet, maybe even a sense of power she'd never had. And for a time, it seemed to lead to stability. She meets Patrick O'Malley, the hotel guy who built the Cornelia.
They have a son, Allie. Things seem...
For a moment, yeah. But then tragedy strikes again. Patrick dies heart attack on their sailboat during a storm, and Maggie's reaction, immediate crushing guilt.
The sources mention her internal confession, thinking, so there you have it. That's how I killed him. That's my confession. It's like she can't escape this feeling of being responsible for disaster.
It ties back to that control idea, maybe. If she's responsible even wrongly, it makes the chaos feel less random. But it's a heavy burden.
And then another layer of complication. Patrick leaves controlling interest in his company to Maggie and her kids.
Which instantly throws her into conflict with Patrick's son, Peter O'Malley. So the fame and wealth, which you'd think would protect her, just create a new battleground.
Right. She escapes one kind of threat only to face another this time. It's corporate, legal. And because she's Maggie Bradford, it's all public.
No privacy left. Every fight, every loss is amplified. The pressure just keeps building. Okay, so let's switch gears to Will Shepherd, the Blonde Arrow. If Maggie channeled her trauma outward into music, well, he seemed to turn us inward, towards destruction.
And his backstory is just as harrowing, isn't it? Finding his father dead in the swimming pool, suicide, and then his mother essentially rejects him.
Total abandonment. And then there's that really disturbing incident from his childhood in England, killing a dog he supposedly loved.
With a stone. And the chilling part is how he felt afterward. He described discovering this bad part of himself and feeling, okay, just numb.
Yeah, that's a really dark signpost for where he's headed. That ability to compartmentalize, to feel okay after violence. How did that translate into his sports career?
Well, that bad part seemed to fuel his athletic brilliance, didn't it? He was incredibly young, playing for Fulham School's top team, known for this reckless, almost dangerous style.
He even said football was his only weapon. Right. A way to just not think about his parents, about the past. So fame, the roar of the crowd, it's all a shield, a distraction.
But like we said with Maggie, it's a poor shield. The cracks start showing pretty quickly. Drug abuse, taking huge risks like Grand Prix racing, which was totally against his contract.
He had the money and fame to basically ignore any rules. He's clearly spiraling. He even tries to hire his brother, Palmer, almost like a minder, a nursemaid.
And admits to Palmer he's desperately unhappy, even thinking about killing himself.
It seems like the fame gave him power over everything except himself. He couldn't control the bad part.
Which leads us to Rio, the World Cup final, He misses the crucial goal.
And that failure seems to be the trigger. The mask just shatters, the professional athlete identity is gone, and the bad part takes over completely.
And what happens next is just horrific. The cocaine binge, the murder of Angelita in the hotel room, the detail about toasting her with her own blood. It's pure psychopathy.
It really is, and this is where his status becomes crucial, right? How did he get away with it, at least initially?
Well, that's the thing. His celebrity, his team, the money it creates this buffer, confusion, delays, bureaucracy. He physically gets out of Rio.
So the immediate consequence is avoided. The narrative shifts. He's not instantly branded a murderer in the public eye. He's the troubled superstar. His fame lets him effectively escape the defining act of his violence, at least for a time.
So these two incredibly famous, incredibly damaged people, their paths eventually cross. Will meets Maggie.
And the beginning is just bizarre. He's apparently drunk, high, crude, and disgusting at some costume ball. Not exactly charming.
But somehow he reels her in. How?
He targets her vulnerability. He uses her own music, specifically Loss of Grace, saying it inspired him, reminded him grace could be re-won.
Wow. So he offers her exactly what she needs to hear, right?
Yeah.
Redemption. It's especially with her guilt over Patrick's death still hanging over her.
Precisely. It's a powerful lure, a promise of healing.
But it doesn't last. The marriage falls apart fast. Will loses a big movie role, Primrose, and that professional failure sends him spiraling again.
And the bad part comes roaring back. He becomes controlling, possessive, starts telling Maggie, I say where you go and don't go. Got that?
Which must have sounded terrifyingly familiar to her. Echoes of Philip, her first husband.
Absolutely. She recognizes the pattern, the danger, and this time she doesn't wait, which leads to the first shooting.
Right. She gets a rifle, confronts him. She apparently believed he was making advances toward Jenny, her daughter. The sources mention him saying something vile like, just getting ready for some fun, menage a trois.
Just horrifying. There's a struggle outside, the gun goes off, Will is shot.
And the public reaction, the prosecutor, Dan Nizinski, they come down on Maggie like a ton of bricks.
Oh, yeah. Nizinski puts her whole life on trial, uses her past against her, that infamous line, 3 strikes, she's out. He paints her as unstable, vengeful.
He even gets Jenny to testify in a way that suggests Maggie shot Will out of jealousy over an affair. And it works, initially. The first trial ends with a guilty verdict.
But then comes this incredible twist. A mistrial is declared. And the reason, it's stunning. Maggie's own lawyer, Nathan Baleford, suppressed evidence.
What evidence was it?
Evidence about Will being involved in these late-night sex parties at a really exclusive place, the Lake Club. Why suppress it?
Because Baleford himself was secretly a member of this club within a club at the Lake Club.
Exactly. It wasn't just incompetence, it was deliberate. He protected the club, his powerful friends, the whole elite network over his own clients' freedom. It's unbelievable.
It really shows how power and money can corrupt the system, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Protecting the club's reputation mattered more than justice for Maggie.
It absolutely suggests that. The system was rigged against her because revealing the truth about Will would expose others in that powerful circle. Baleford chose loyalty to the elite over loyalty to his client.
Okay, and we need to be really clear here for listeners. Will Shepard survived that first shooting.
Correct. He recovers, and then after the mistrial, he goes back to Maggie's house in disguise, planning to kill Maggie, Jenny, and Allie.
A triple murder plot.
Yeah, and it's during that attack, that intentional home invasion, that Maggie shoots him the second time.
And this time, the consequences for Will are permanent.
Devastatingly so. Severe brain injury. He's institutionalized, can barely communicate, just makes the slurred sound. Mala.
Which Maggie eventually figures out means, I'm alive. I'm alive. Please don't leave me like this. I'm trapped.
Talk about irony. After a life spent controlling others through fame and violence, he ends up completely trapped, unable to exert any control at all, not even over his own voice.
And Maggie? She understands him, but she makes a choice.
She chooses freedom. She never visits him again. She cuts the cord, finally separating herself from his destructive orbit. #outro.
So when you look at the whole arc, these two lives intertwined, it's just this relentless cycle of trauma, isn't it? And fame just poured gasoline on the fire. Will used violence, destruction as his release.
Yeah, and Maggie tried creation, music, seeking stability, but her fame just seemed to attract more conflict, more danger. It really underscores that, fame and money, they don't fix the deep stuff. They just give those internal demons a bigger stage, maybe more sophisticated ways to hide the damage for a while.
So the takeaway for you listening,
Yeah.
maybe it's about understanding the limits of external success.
Yeah.
It can't heal internal wounds.
And perhaps a final thought to leave you with. Think about Maggie's freedom at the end. It wasn't just legal, was it? It was mental. She finally stepped out of the narrative, out of the news, out of the cycle of
While Will, who craved control above all else, ended up in the ultimate state of powerlessness, trapped, silent, screaming, "I'm alive," into a void. Maybe that horrifying isolation was the most extreme version of the trap he'd been in his entire life.